Hello and welcome to U plus AI's YouTube channel called Startup Reports. I am Ranga, and in this channel, I review startups that make products or solutions at the intersection of healthcare and artificial intelligence. I am doing a COVID-19 special series now, where I specifically look at startups that are helping address the challenges posed up by COVID-19 and other such infectious diseases. In this episode, we'll take a look at what Sickweather is doing. So what does Sickweather do? Sickweather's mission is to provide the most accurate, predictive, and meaningful sickness forecast in the world. Now, what kind of questions will Sickweather answer for us? Essentially, we all want to know what illnesses are most prevalent in my community, and specifically this season, be it spring or summer or winter. We want to know, especially during spring and when there's a lot of flowers coming up in gardens around us, that which allergies are being reported in my specific area. And I may want to know this for myself or my kids. And what these will help me to do is to prepare adequately so that I can do whatever I can to keep myself and my family safe from illness. So how does Sickweather manage to do this? Well, Sickweather, first of all, listens to social networks, and that is like Facebook, Twitter, and all. And what does it listen for? It listens for people reporting illnesses in their area. For example, I tweet out today saying, hey, I caught a cold, I'm at home and I'm having some warm tea. That's something that Sickweather can pick up. If somebody else reports that, hey, many kids in my school, turned up sick today, that's another valuable report for Sickweather. Now, remember though, Sickweather is not really snooping on exactly what you're tweeting or what you're reporting to Facebook. It's looking for these words, but it's looking at it in anonymized data and is looking for these words in aggregate feeds from Facebook, Twitter, and other social media networks. Once it gets that, and because there is a location attached to these tweets or Facebook updates, it can sort of map what kind of illnesses are being reported from what kind of areas. But remember, it's not just listening, right? It's also, apart from listening to social media networks, it is also looking at other data from more official sources, like the Centers for Disease Control in the USA, or maybe data being reported by hospitals on what kind of illnesses are people reporting and getting hospitalized for. So there are multiple sources, and these are all sources from where Sickweather sort of gets the data, and then based on that gives you a forecast or a report of what specific things are going on in your area or your community. Now, obviously, to collect all this data and to crunch it down to something that's meaningful that can be reported, Sickweather uses artificial intelligence, specifically natural language processing, which works with all this text data and kind of picks out what is of relevance. So that's how Sickweather works. And remember, most importantly, Sickweather relies on crowdsourcing, relies on what people are saying, and gives a greater weight to that. And it uses that as a method to report what is happening in which area. So how does Sickweather report it? What does the report look like? Well, it's a mobile app. You can download it from the Apple Store or from the Google Play Store. And on the right, I show you how it looks on the phone. Right? For example, here it's saying that for Los Angeles in California, it's showing a high risk. And that is because it says there's fever, cough, and common cold that are going around, and kind of gives you the next level of detail where, say, fever, there are about 249 people who have reported it or reports that it has gathered in that area about fever. Same way with common cold, there are about 334 reports. So this kind of gives you an idea of, hey, what illnesses are going around in the city. The same way on the left, if you see, this is a report for Calcutta in India, and here it says that, fever, headache, and stress are most prevalent in Calcutta. And if you see, there's a nice drop down where you can even check for particular conditions that you want. So, for example, I'm visiting Kolkata, and I want to see if asthma is being reported in Calcutta, because let's say maybe I'm an asthmatic patient or I have some respiratory difficulty. So I want to make sure that where I'm landing, I'm adequately prepared for that, and I know what kind of problems are going on in that area. So this becomes a very useful tool for me to kind of understand that. So certainly something that I'll use for travel preparation, something that will certainly use to understand what things are going on in my area, in my community. So what's my take? Certainly there's an example of crowdsourcing, right? So where people report illnesses, where people report their conditions, and based on that, an analysis is made and a forecast is given for specific areas. Think of this like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Waze. Now, Waze was a traffic startup, say, which basically relied on people to report traffic conditions. It had a really cool app, and there were icons for like, hey, there's a traffic block because of an accident on this particular route, or there was a police checking that's going on, or there was a breakdown, and you could simply update it while you were driving. And as you updated that information was used, and it made it, that information was used in the app such that it will show that the route that you've taken for other users of that route, that, hey, there are delays being put on the route for whatever reasons. So that was also, Waze also relied on crowdsourcing, and this is another example of an app that relies on crowdsourcing for giving you an idea of the illness in your area. My another take for this is that, as with any crowdsourcing apps, they get better if more people use it. Like Waze is not super useful where if only very few people use it, and most of the others are using other traffic apps like Google Maps and your Apple Maps and all that, right? If more and more people start using it, then Waze becomes better. Then it actually gives more utility to the people. So why would people use it? So for example, why did people use Waze at all? Because it gave them more value on top of Google Maps. Like it could tell them at which times they could start, to take a particular route, which times were the least in terms of traffic density on a particular route. So it could kind of predict also that, hey, if you started at 2 p.m. from your office, you could reach home today, by 2:35, whereas usually it would take around 3 p.m., right? So this was the additional value that people realized using Waze. So the same way, I think we need to think about what is the value that Sickweather can give. Now, obviously, in these days, with COVID-19 and COVID-19 like infectious diseases that are going around, people certainly want to know whether COVID-19 is there in my community, it's there in my area. So that is a clear use case, because that will tell people whether they can get out of the house, how they should get out of the house, where they can go, where they need not go. For example, if they know about hotspots based on people reporting that there are COVID-19 positive cases, maybe people will not go to those places, right? So certainly there is value, at least considering the current conditions of a pandemic like COVID-19. But I think as we go further beyond the pandemic, I think we would have to think of how to incentivize people, or Sickweather, how to incentivize people to actually start using the app, because the value comes only when more and more people use it. So thank you. I hope you liked the perspective. If you did, Uh, please like the video on YouTube. Do connect with me, on my online handle U plus AI, on Twitter, on Medium, and SoundCloud. Uh, I'll see you again in the next episode. Enjoy.